We are convened at the Sonny West Conference Center at the Howard Office Building in downtown Nashville. Thank you all for being here. We are here to cover a 10-item agenda, principally dealing with the certification of the elections held on August 3rd, 2023. The first item on the agenda is public comments. Ms. Harrison, has anybody signed up to publicly comment? No, sir. All right, thank you. That brings us to the next item up on the agenda, which are the minutes from the June 22nd, 2023 meeting. We have a draft of those minutes in our packet of materials. Commissioners, if you could take a moment to review those minutes, and if there are any questions or issues with what's in there, please let us know, and then if not, just let us know when we're able to consider a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from the June 22nd, 2023 meeting.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
With a second, up for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries. Before us as items 3, 4, and 5 on the agenda are basically 3 sets of elections that occurred on August 3rd. The first is the special primary election in District 51, and then there was the general election, which was also a special election in District 52, and then we had all of the Metro general elections on August 3rd. With that, I'd like to ask Mr. Roberts to explain to us what the staff does with the voting results between August 3rd and today when we're being called upon to certify the election.
So probably the biggest task, we like to go through and perform a let's call it an audit, just to make sure the numbers, we don't have anything that looks odd to us right off the bat. That's one of the first things we do. We start doing that the night that the returns are coming back because we have the ability to compare votes that are, when a voter checks in at the precinct on election day, we can then compare how many votes are cast on the scanners at that particular precinct. So you're always going to have people that walk away with the ballot, don't put it in the scanner, those type things, but we're looking for anything that would stand out as an anomaly. So we then take that process further, looking at early voting, absentee, just looking for those kind of things that would cause us to have some concern that the numbers did not reflect votes cast by Davidson County voters. So what you see before you are results that we believe reflect the votes cast by the Davidson County voters for the August 3rd election. Now, another big process includes provisional ballots cast during early voting and election day. If you don't have an ID at either one of those events, you can bring an ID back to us 2 days after the election. You have 2 days to bring that out to our office, and then your provisional ballot will count. We also then look for anyone that voted a provisional ballot, why they voted that provisional ballot, should they have voted a provisional ballot, is there something that would cause them not to qualify to vote a provisional ballot and have it counted. Some of those things, probably the biggest one, the individual is not registered in Davidson County, or they did not register timely. That would be the biggest piece. We had 90 total provisional ballots, or 100 total ballots that we did not count. 53 of those were because the voter wasn't registered or did not register timely. So the biggest chunk of that, we had 90 ballots that we counted. The biggest reason that we counted those ballots, and the reason why the person that had to vote a provisional, when they presented themselves, there was something in their voting record that says you're in suspense. That means we don't have all the information we need for you to create a complete voter registration. The voter has until election day to correct that. So early voting, they can correct a lot of that right there when they're at the person checking in. Election day, they don't have that same luxury, so they have to do a provisional ballot, and that's why we have a number of those. We had, of the 90, we had 34. So a lot of folks, I think that's what that tells us. People are getting more and more nervous about putting complete information, demographics about themselves on a paper ballot and giving that to someone. That causes us then have to collect that in another fashion. Could be their social security number, could be their birth date, anything like that. We have to go back out and try to collect that. If they do present on election day, you vote a provisional ballot, and we can, because you fill out an application as part of the process for a provisional ballot, we have collected it then. So your vote would count. We had 17 voters that voted a provisional ballot because they realized that their absentee ballot would not get back to us in time. That's likely because they requested an absentee ballot the last few days of the period. And because of that and the turnaround for mail, it's just impossible. So they chose to come on out on election day and vote. We had 17 of those. Last would be where our poll officials process the voter as a provisional ballot, when in reality they should have been a simple change of address. They could have done everything and the voter could have voted on the machines, but for some reason they misunderstood and asked the voter to go through the provisional process. So that's kind of a summary of what we go through. Once we've done that, especially the people that aren't registered or didn't register timely, we then send all of those names to the state. They reach out to all of the agencies in state government that can register people to vote and get the dates from them as to which day they tried to register. If they registered timely or they actually have a registration, we would then put them in the good column. So it's kind of a double check, us first, then the state. So that's kind of where we are on the provisional process. The message we're trying to send, though, the provisional is not something bad. That's kind of that's your last fallback. Go ahead and vote provisionally, and we will then research it after the fact and see if there's a possibility that just an error has been made somewhere, and we can allow your vote to count. Any questions on the provisional process? You've got included in your packet a detail of every provisional ballot that was cast, what we did with it, those type things. And we present the information that we collect about each of these to a provisional counting board. So a bipartisan group of individuals, they're the ones actually making the determination as to whether or not this ballot should actually count. Anybody have a question on that process?
Yes, Mr. Roberts, we've got an election coming up on August 3rd. When do people have to register in order to be able to vote on August 3rd? September 3rd, September 14th. September 14th. When do they have to register in order to vote in the next election?
They have to register by August 15th.
Okay.
So that's a date that if you're not already registered, you need to keep that in mind. If you have any questions about whether or not you're registered, you can go to our website, look yourself up, or you can call us and we can help you along that way.
Commissioners, any questions? All right. That brings us then to item 3 on our agenda, the issue of certification of the August 3rd, 2023 Tennessee House District 51 special primary election. Is there either a question or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the results as printed.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries. Item 4 is the same issue as to the August 3rd, 2023 Tennessee House District 52 special general election. Are there any questions about that election and those results, or do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hertzfeld. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda, which is the Metro general election, also on August 3rd, 2023. Are there any questions about the certification of those races? If there are no questions, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hertzfeld,
I'll second.
and we have a second. With a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 6, which is the candidates for the September 14th Tennessee House District 51 special general election. Are there any issues, AOE Roberts, about the candidates for that election?
I would ask the commissioners just to take notice that we do have an independent candidate that will be on the ballot for the general election.
Are there any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hertzfeld.
Second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Davis. With a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion carries. We have a similar issue under item 7 for the September 14th, 2023 Metro runoff election. AOE Roberts, are there any issues about any of the candidates that are on item 7 on in our packet?
No, sir. This list reflects every candidate that is moving forward to the runoff election.
All right. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes, sir. Commissioner Starling.
It will reflect on the ballot that you need to choose 4.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
It will say choose 1, or choose 4.
Gotcha.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing no further questions, do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Hertzfeld makes a motion,
Second.
and Commissioner Davis seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries unanimously. Bringing us to item 8, which is the AOE report. AOE Roberts, do you have anything to report to us?
Sure. I would just like to thank the commission for responding very quickly to setting up meetings, because we only have a short period between the general election and the runoff. A lot of things have to happen. A good example is the printer is waiting to hear word from Ms. Pierce as soon as this meeting's over, whether or not they can publish and get that in the mail to voters. So a lot of things are happening behind the scenes, and it would not be possible if you all didn't really work with us on the schedule. Another pointer for you, we have almost 600 requests for ballots for absentee ballots already for September. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That brings us to the next meeting. Does the staff have a recommendation on when we should meet next?
Mr. Chairman, originally we had discussed the 21st, but we were not able to secure this room, so we request that you set the meeting for Monday, September 25th at 3:30.
Okay. Is that satisfactory? I know, Commissioner Hertzfeld, you had a problem.
Yeah, but I'm going to be out of the country during the entire certification period. So
Okay. All right. Well,
don't change it on my account.
okay. All right. Any other issues? No? Okay. Do we have a motion then to set the next meeting for September 25th at 3:30 p.m. in the Sonny West office?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Burns
And I second.
and a second from Commissioner Starling. With that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries. And that brings us to
Motion to
item
adjourn.
10. Yes, we have a motion. And do we have a second?
You have a second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? With no opposition, the motion carries. Thank you all, and thank the staff for running a good, clean election, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you.
I think this was a record.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.